Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. I'm not going to like talking about this. So, Labour's National Executive Committee approved the manifesto, and all the talk has been about the Brexit position, of course. Far from committing to a public vote on Brexit, the manifesto does as expected, but in a very disappointing way. It says that Labour will back a public vote if either the Conservatives don't change their deal or Labour are unable to engineer a general election. Now, some people are looking at that and thinking that as weak a commitment as it is, it still means a public vote. After all, the Conservatives are not going to change their deal. However, this commitment to a public vote is even weaker than the one at the party conference last year. Last year, most Labour members wanted the party to commit to a public vote on whatever outcome. Jeremy Corbyn intervened in direct contradiction to what he said he was going to do, and he amended that motion, which then went through, and he simply made it the last resort in a long list of preferred options, all of which took the country out of the EU. Now, at that moment, Labour became a strong Remain party with a strongly Leave leader. But members went along with it because they knew the options were not realistic. And all right then, Jeremy, have it your way. We know it's going to come down to a public vote. Labour had various tests for a Brexit deal that no Tory government was ever going to agree to. It was complete fantasy. So that was never going to happen. The Conservatives were never going to come up with a deal. He couldn't also get a general election without Conservative MPs committing the ultimate act of betrayal, which was not a realistic prospect at that time. So, we went through the motions. He couldn't get the deal changed. The deal was voted down by a hefty margin. He called a vote of no confidence in the government. That was passed. Then he had to mutter something about public vote, and that's where it should be now. But anyway, now it's different. It's different at this moment in time. Basically, Jeremy Corbyn has dropped all of his key tests. The manifesto simply requires that the Conservatives change the deal. Now, if they do, even if it's just largely cosmetic or at least not even very binding legally, Corbyn now has the authority to say that, the deal's fine now, and proceed with Brexit. In other words, May can just change the political declaration, which can easily be changed back. It's not legally binding, and he can go, yeah, that's great now. The NEC has just given him that power. And remember, he desperately wants us to leave the EU. Desperately wants us to leave. Throughout this process, he has only given lip service to the values of his party in this regard and on this matter. He has supported this, what is, after all, a right-wing Brexit, by saying that he respects the illegal vote, by failing to push the government on various acts of wrongdoing, and by failing to provide an alternative Brexit narrative to the people as compared to the Conservatives. He's towing their party line. Some might say that Corbyn's Brexit deal would be very different to the Conservatives. Would it? It still means leaving the EU. And also, how do we know it would even be fundamentally different? Yes, he says he wants a customs union, and I believe he does. And yes, the Conservatives say that they don't, and I believe that they don't. But the agreement he's been voting against doesn't prevent a customs union. Indeed, quite a lot of people see a customs union as an inevitable outcome. That's why the ERG have such a major problem with it. He also wants alignment with the single market. But what he means by that is access to the free trade area without the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice. Not happening though, is it? There's as much unicorn as that as there is in Farage's rants. He also wants protected rights for workers. Well, so does every Labour leader, and every Labour government delivers it, just as every Conservative government wrecks it, in or out of the EU. EU laws on worker rights are routinely broken under Conservative governments with no redress whatsoever. And then there's that general election. Well, in what sort of time frame are we talking, first of all? After all, the conference said that all of those options and then get behind a public vote. Well, he tried all the other options, couldn't get them, muttered something about a public vote, like I said. So Labour should now be fully behind a public vote. But no, he's reset the clock on it with the latest manifesto. It's all back to the beginning. No, we're trying to go back to this again. Besides, a general election is actually more likely now. What the manifesto now says that if Labour form a government, the public vote is off. That's all there is to it. It's no longer even on the table. It's gone. That's it. If we have a general election and Labour gets into power, we are leaving the EU. That is what the manifesto says. Now, I'm not saying that is definitely what would happen, but that is what the manifesto says. That's what the party's official position now is. Well, in that situation, Tory Brexiteers might well carry out their earlier threats to trigger a general election. They might even think that a new Conservative leader might reverse the party's fortunes in the polls. And it might well do. A lot of the unpopularity of the Conservatives is the blame that a lot of people are laying at Theresa May's feet. A general election is triggered. She sort of has to stand down then. Someone else takes over. All of a sudden, everyone will be willing to give them a chance. And if there's not much time for that leader to block their copybook in the public's view, they may well vote them in. After all, they don't really like Jeremy Corbyn. A general election remains a strong possibility. I'd expect the Conservatives not to keep their powder dry. I don't think I expect them to do very much at the moment. But after the local and maybe even the European elections, then we might start to see something. And this is where Corbyn is not just dishonest and tyrannical, because what other word is there for someone who acts against the direct wishes of your people? He's actually stupid. Brexit is the key issue of our age, and many people will vote with their preferred outcome on Brexit in mind. Never mind other policies, there's a lot of people who will vote depending on what your Brexit position is. He had the chance to make Labour the committed party of at least a definite public vote. Now, that's not a fully Remain position, but it's enough to attract Remain supporters. Now the party won't. If you're not a Labour member, I can literally think of no reason for any citizen to vote for Labour now. Not one. Vote for one of the more committed parties. The votes will be badly split. It'll come to nothing significant. But what can you do? What can you do? But it's worse than that. By making Labour appear to be a Brexit party, who is he going to attract? Leavers? Seriously? When they could choose between UKIP, the Brexit party, and the Conservatives, who are not even tentatively putting a public vote on the table. No way. No. On an issue that has split the country right down the middle, he has literally put off both halves of the country. Yes, many will still vote Labour, of course. There are people who will vote Labour to get rid of the Conservative government that is literally killing British citizens with its policies. Of course they will. Some will vote Labour just out of spite with the Tories, perhaps. A lot of people will just vote for the other one when one of them has been in government for about 10 years. They just want to change. Some will vote Labour because they think there's so much of the party in favour of a public vote that they might assume that surely Corbyn can't take us out of the EU with all that resistance. Well, guess what? If the party was willing to stop him doing anything, it would have stopped him being leader by now. Oh, and as if pissing off Labour supporters across the land wasn't enough, I see he's also cocked it up on the anti-Semitism front as well. He's written a foreword for a book that has anti-Semitic sections in it. Now, he didn't write the book. It's a book on imperialism, and he says that writing a foreword doesn't condone the book, it's a commentary on the book. No, it's not. A review is a commentary on a book. Writing a foreword for a book, which is something of an honour, to be asked to write a foreword for a book, not only means you condone the book, you're actively supporting it. That's what a foreword is for. Absolutely ridiculous. But whatever, despite his continual acts of betrayal and stupidity, because it's not always deliberate betrayal, sometimes it's just gross stupidity, his supporters will continue to support him. It just occurred to me today that they have the same blinkered outlook and ready excuses at hand for all the little cock-ups, for the greater good type things that Trump supporters have. It's quite chilling to think about it. It's exactly the same. It's a group of people, the majority of whom I'm sure are very decent people, by the way. And they were so desperate to break the political elites. They were so sick of the usual sort of political leaders who were leaving them behind. And then that's true, and there's certainly something in that. And along came this leader who said it would all be different. And they went, yeah, we'll vote for that. But they backed the wrong horse very badly. They backed someone who was far worse than the political elite, who was worse from the usual sort of leader. God, at this point, you can't even tell whether I'm talking about Trump or Corbyn. That's how bad it is. And people will sort of ask still why I still support Labour. And it's because Labour hasn't changed. It's just been taken over by our own brand of swivel-eyed loons, which is a term that a former Conservative chairman used to refer to the extremes in their party. And it's distressing to see reports, rumours, thankfully at the moment, just rumours, of certain people potentially getting ready to resign, The very people who we need running the party, not leaving it. But that doesn't help anything. It just secures him. It just secures him. And I'm not abandoning the party because there's two reasons really. One, he can't stay there forever. He can cause permanent damage like Michael Foot before him did, but he can't actually be there forever. Can't live forever. And the other thing is, there is literally no other party in this country that shares my core values. Not one. There are some parties where I respect a number of their values, but there is no other party other than Labour where I respect all the core values. So there we are. And I shall still vote Labour as well. The people I'll be voting for are at least the people who are supporting those values. I don't get to vote for Jeremy Corbyn after all. So anyway, hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content, and until next time, I'll see you later.